child, no you way, no you sonia. Madiri child, no way, no you sonia. No makakie, no makaye nabade. Maburiye.
I think Brigid is the embodiment of our femininity and the power within us as women. You draw on a strength from inside then. It's like the Brigid well. It's like a well inside you of strength when you need it most. That's kind of Brigid for me, really.
She also has the, I would say, she has the embodiment of the land and of the natural rights of nature, and when I always think, oh, Imbolc is coming around, Brigid is appearing or will be there in whatever the snowdrops or the daffodils, or that's feeling that, you know, here we are again and we're going to give it another go. The earth is coming, and the indigenous wisdom she's encompassed.
You know, as I've lived in Ireland for quite a few years, and the celebration of St. Brigid was not something that I automatically picked. Because obviously I didn't have a much understanding of Brigid, but I suppose when you stay longer and you're intrigued about cultures and you go in to learn about cultures, you realize that how much similarities we have. What I read and when people talk about it, it sounds very familiar, like somebody I knew. It could be my mother, my grandmother. She embodied all those aspects. Yeah, and it's very intriguing. It's a story you want to hear.
So how it was explained to us was we were in first class and we were told the story of Brigid, and that she was a poor woman who cared about people a lot, and she tried going to like the king to ask for some land, and he wouldn't give it to her, and so she asked again and he said fine, but only as far as your cloak will cover. So 3 people in her community helped her grab the 4 corners of the cloak and pull it out, and it ended up covering a huge amount of land.
Well done.
We have a very similar story. There was the Devatas. The Devatas are the gods, and the Asurs. Asurs are the demons technically. So one of the demon god, the Asur god, demon is, you know, now we see it with a lens of negativity. It's not like that, but you can just say that they're not from the same race, you know. So this category of people, the Asurs. So the Asurs,
like the fairies?
Yeah,
they're menacing, but
yes. So there was this King Bali, and he was a very, you know, he was a great king, but he was an Asur, and he had taken over the entire earth, and his kingdom had spread, and he was a good king, you know, he was not a bad king. But the Devatas, the gods, they were feeling scared now that what if he now spreads his kingdom to heaven, and then we will have to surrender to him, and that's when we will lose balance, you know, the balance will be lost. So they reached out to Vishnu and they said, can you help us? So then Vishnu said, okay, fine, I'll see what I can do. So he takes the form of a dwarf monk, and and he takes that form and he goes to this king, and the monks were very respected, as I believe they were here. King says, now what can I do for you? He says, you have to promise me whatever I ask for, you will give it to me. The king imagines, okay, he's a dwarf, he's a monk, he has nothing to do with the worldly things, what can he possibly ask of me? And he says, fine, I'll give you whatever that you want. And he says, I just need 3 steps of land. And so he says, granted. Then Vishnu, he becomes into his enormous, he becomes big and big and big. So one step when he takes, it covers all of earth. The other step covers all of heaven. And then he says, now where do I put my third step? And then the king is, he knows that, okay, now this is God. And he says, here is my head, you can place your, foot on my head.
Amy was saying there about the British cloak and her going to the king. The king was actually her father. He was a druid, and she was looking to set up a Christian community. A community, essentially, for women, for poor women, for the sick, so she was, that the cloak becomes symbolic to a new way of life and building community and how community functions, and I think the British cloak is an amazing example of that, because what you're doing is you're dismantling, destruction, and you're coming together as a community
In a new shape.
in a new way, and everybody is it's inclusive. The cloak becomes an inclusive symbolism of how community functions, especially towards women. And now are only finding their voice, and they're being able to navigate their way through that in a New Ireland in a contemporary manner. And I think that's sometimes why this new idea of Brigid, the goddess, the saint, sometimes Brigid just exists as the woman and the representation of that, of it, whether you're religious or whether you follow, pagan in your mind, or whether you, follow pagan ideas, that actually Brigid is just symbolic for the contemporary woman living in this land. And, and I think there's, as you said, under her cloak, there's room for many interpretations in that way, But I would say Brigid represents the mother of community.
In my community, particularly, in the Maasai community, traditionally, back in the days, women built the houses, the homes.
Matriarchal.
Yeah, we were nomadic pastoralists. We moved from one place to another. And women, just like the travelers, actually, when you come to learn about, we have similarity in one way or the other. So we move in a search for water, green lands, and for our livestock. And so you have this wonderful strength and power that is so quiet and yet hidden within some communities. But it's not really spoken about.
Who is Brigid? It is different things to different people, I think. Is she a goddess? Is she a saint? Was she actually a person at all, or is Brigid a title? Exalted one?
There was that separation. Oh no, it's the goddess, it belonged to Celtic, pre-Celtic. And I was going to say, this is the first time in history that there is space to be emergent of the two. It doesn't.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were discussing on how she's a doctor here, and we were talking about the challenges that we go through as in the diaspora. And it's interesting because if you put all of us in the same room, we do have a common challenges. It's somebody else has the power to determine how you settle in and what you are entitled to, and eventually whether you go back to finding your own identity, who you are.
Well, I moved over to Manchester in 81, so the wave of people who had gone in the 60s and 70s before me had taken the brunt of the discrimination. I won't call it racism, because racism comes with skin tone, in my belief. So if I keep my mouth shut in Manchester, I'm a white looking person. But when the Manchester bomb went off in 96, I didn't speak for about 3 weeks in public. I'm being Irish in Manchester.
It's a really interesting thing that you highlighted. And I feel like through projects like St. Brigid project on this, the fabric coming together from women from various parts of the world, and even just working, for instance, the women who sent their piece from the US or even just around Ireland, and I walked into that door and I saw what they were able to do. It's just magnificent. Like,
Yes.
probably somebody who made that is maybe a grandmother or a mother or
Whole
a woman.
story.
Yeah, exactly. A huge story.
For me, it's kind of more femininity, I think. Just craft as well, maybe creation, something like really kind of, abstract vision of that, probably. That's more for me, like. And I think it's a bit of religion as well, and some folk as well, yeah.
Yeah, certainly there is that sense of inspiration, for
Yes.
craftspeople. Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking at connections to place as well as just that more abstract kind of inspiration.
Yeah,
you
I know what you mean, yeah,
So,
that's true. Yeah.
We went a few years ago up Crochan Hill, which is said where she had her smith there at Crochan Hill
Yes.
in County Offaly, and it's an extinct volcano. But it's an incredible sight. The view from the top of it is amazing. It said there's a Brigid's well on the hill. I couldn't find the well. I don't.
There is next one to Hill of Fishneck. There is St. Brigid as well. We went there this year with my daughter. Like, it was actually same weather, pure rain, and we went. But it was so mystical, so kind of rainy weather. We really enjoyed that. And my daughter, she's like, she was born in Ireland, but she loves rain. That's one of the she just loves rain. She loves kind of I think it's kind of about a bit of sadness and a bit of kind of calm and like relaxation. She just loves rain. It's just like one of mystical. So we really enjoy kind of St. Brigid's wish, and I would love to go to Kildare to St. Brigid's Church Cathedral. Actually, it's only opens in the summer, so hopefully in May.
Yeah.
Because it's a beautiful place over there. Been there before, but we never went to Cathedral. Just closed for the winter time, I think. So, but it's there is a few kind of places as well. About there is another St. Brigid as well, close to the kind of
There's so
Kildare.
many.
Yeah, there's loads of
There's so many, but there's lots in Kildare as well. I've been to a few of the different ones in Kildare. Certainly, there's a Brigid's pilgrimage now as well. It's been going on for about 20 years, but they're trying to get more recognition and to make it, a nationwide Brigid's pilgrimage. But
coming to my background, like I'm originally from Estonia and I'm living in Moj for 20 years now. Actually, half of my life, 41. So I never heard about St. Brigid, but since I came here, and I'm actually so happy to see kind of those things are happening, and the people trying to bring kind of the folk down, and like River Fest like last summer, like just based on the Irish goodnesses, and like the based on my background as well, because my mom used to be a dressmaker, and this project probably like for me makes such kind of good kind of impact, and I actually practically didn't sew for so many years.
Yeah,
With
so
my
it's the
sewing
inspiration
machine.
to get back to sewing. Yeah,
And like all my 3 pieces represents like there is like an angel, and that's probably something like about my mom. There is like a house, and just like because I'm in Ireland 20 years, that's my home. And another one is like the 4 birds. This is like my surname, because my surname from Russian is like a sparrow. So there's like 4 birds, and like 4 of us living here, myself, sister, and 2 my daughters. So that was like my pieces, really kind of and I actually can see loads of people put such much meaning into those pieces what been made.
Yeah, they're so
and
personal.
Yes, absolutely, and I love it. And I've been talking to Mary over there, and she's like, oh, there is like a hands like from our group. I was like, so touchable. It's absolutely touching my heart. Like every single page kind of was I really love that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way that Brigid, we have Brigid the goddess, Brigid the saint, so she's like a bridge between the old ways and the new ways, between pagan times and Christian times.
Yes.
She's kind of transcended that transition, and so she is approachable by everyone and anyone, which is one of the wonderful things about Brigid. Not just was she a healer and a midwife, she just seems to be there for women to come together in many ways and to just kind of celebrate what we have to offer the world as well. Yeah, I find it very interesting. It's incredible just the last few years what has happened, that Brigid's Day has now become
agreed.
a national holiday.
Yeah, and I saw like in the group, on a Facebook group, there was like people was like, oh, we love the idea and we would love to use that idea for something else by kind of, united kind of, people and like women's and justice and peace and everything. I was like absolutely amazed with the project. It's like, it's such nice, and I think it's a good idea, and I think we have to keep going every year, like, just to kind of put that.
So you kind of feel it's going to inspire more projects
it's very
as well.
nice. Yeah.
I mean, my own piece, it was challenging to make. I had spent all last year, I was doing a natural dye journey in the Doonashee Heritage Park. We planted a dye garden. So all the fabrics, I had all these beautiful fabrics, but didn't know what to really make with them. They're kind of too precious to use almost,
Yes,
because
I know,
we spent so long and so much work making them.
Yeah.
And I've been learning to do patchwork quilting the last couple of years with the schoolhouse quilters here in Athlone. So it just seemed like the perfect opportunity to use those fabrics and to kind of combine all those colours and to make a Brigid's cross out of those colours. So I really enjoyed that. Technically it was quite challenging because there was lots of small pieces, but very satisfying, and I was really delighted with what I made. And then I had my grandchildren helping me do some tie-dyeing, which was lovely as well, to see them get so excited about it when they were squeezing colours from bottles, and then for them to see it on the bridge in Athlone.
I think we're at a cultural turning point with Brigid. We're kind of lucky that Brigid can be many manner things. From what I've seen over my lifetime, 40 years, we've come from a very traditional viewpoint of Brigid as being the saint, very much tied in with the Catholic religion and like sainthood as it's presented to us through that framework. But I think there's a little bit of what I would call a revival, I guess, of interpretations of Brigid. Yeah, because of kind of image of this new Ireland, which is quite culturally diverse. So I would say Brigid now kind of represents that framework of a new society, a new inclusive society that differs from the traditional fixed idea of Brigid. So
yeah, I'd very much agree. So out of 20 years on IFA, I would have very much come up in Catholic school with making Brigid's crosses, associating Brigid with places that are called Brideswell and other names like that. So there'd be association of maybe the pattern or the prayers that might happen at the well on a certain date, either the eve of Brigid or Brigid's Day itself. Prominent thing would have been the cross when I was young, the making of the cross, and then her association with health, a wish for health, and the whole idea of the Brigid's cross going over the door in the house to wish health to anybody who enters the house. But that's on the go for a long, long time. But likewise, I was very pleased in the last couple of years when Brigid has come more to the fore and got her own holiday in Ireland. I was very pleased to see how broad a range of events and activities and personalities that she could hold, because she was reckoned to be the patron saint of so many different trades and skills and so on and so forth. So I was glad to see that it ended up being such a sort of a joyous, celebratory sort of a feast is what I'm getting the impression that it is.
So there's a term, son of the soil. So if there was a daughter of the soil, I think that would be Brigid. That's my understanding, or limited understanding of Brigid. I've been in Ireland for a little over 4 years, and the first time I heard about Brigid was from a herbalist and a horticulture teacher, Paula Sharkey. You might be knowing her. Yes. So she told me about Brigid, and we were just taking a walk. She was showing, it was a herb walk, and there were these reeds. She said, they're very important for our culture. And that's when she she told me about St. Brigid and the Brigid's Cross, and we also ended up making a little Brigid's Cross ourselves. The story stuck with me. There is a resonance of the qualities of Brigid in the Indian context also. And I think it's a universal theme, being connected to your land and being protective.
Yeah.
It's a very motherly instinct, and I think you would find similar figures across the world. And in India, we have not one but many. So we have a concept of the Kuladevta or Kuladevi, the protector of that land, the deity which is supposed to protect that land. It could be a small piece of land, it could be a big piece of land, it could be like a bunch of villages together and they would share one common deity, or it could be, just your family deity. Now, India is very diverse. Within the Hindu community, they're so diverse. The north is so different from the south. We don't share a common language. We have so many different languages. I'm from the north. I might have more chances of sharing similar culture with a North Indian Muslim than a South Indian Hindu. So yes, so it's very cultural and regional that way. So there's a festival called Ahoi. Now Ahoi Mata. Now Ahoi Mata means Ahoi mother. Women usually fast that day to seek blessings from the mother goddess for the long life of their children. And they fast, and they also make, like you have a Brigid's Cross. The women here on this day, they make a garland of edible things, Yes. So and it's a very sweet little thing. And each year they also keep adding a silver bead to their own necklace.
And is that celebrated at a certain time of year?
Yes. Now this is around Diwali. Now, sometime in the fall. A lot of our festivals, like here, align themselves with the rhythm of the nature. It's the lunar calendar.
Well, I mean, it's very similar, isn't it? In the sense that we move with the lunar calendar. As we evolved, man has constructed time to suit himself. But actually, the sun and the moon is what really controls nature.
Yes,
and nature still, apart from humans, nature is the thing that works in harmony with that.
Yes.
And it's very interesting to think that something that ancient still exists and people still come together to celebrate.
Yes.
Based on the movement of the lunar calendar and the sun and where you are on the equator.
Yes.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. So it's like very diverse and all the same at one time. Yeah. I heard, I think it was Andres de Stack, just saying, to do with the Brigid's Cross, that the rushes are the sort of the first thing that, I suppose, that is green, the first plant of the new year, if you like, that is green and that's ready for picking, and that's what's used for St. Brigid. And so she would also be associated with kind of a wish for abundance of food. So it all comes back to, I suppose, self-sufficiency before the word was even coined, when people were living off the land and, they were eating to survive. And
she was kind of a link between the Fomorians and the Tuatha De Danann as well, because her husband Brett was Fomorian, so her son was like a link between the two these tribes who were fighting for power to kind of control Ireland. So it's interesting, like he went and learnt to make weapons with the Tuatha De Danann, but then used that weapon to stab Gobnu the smith, but Gobnu turned around and killed him at the end of it. So it's very much that battle for who had power in Ireland. But Brigid seems to have kind of transcended all that.
Calivi Poeg, that's the main character in our culture, like going through the poetry, like there is like but there is a few kind of but not too much. Like we have, like Estonia is very tiny, like 200 kilometers like that, and 200 kilometers, so it's very, very tiny. We like
And you mentioned the wonderful Brigid's Well in Kildare then.
Yeah.
There are so many Brigid's Wells in Ireland, we have them everywhere. Are there any kind of sacred wells in Estonia? Would that be a thing?
We do have few sacred wells with the signs, but I think it's more common to Orthodox and kind of church. There is There is actually a big monastery just close to my kind of, countryside, and there is a kind of running water river, so you practically go in and dip in like 3 times. There is kind of a few traditions like that. Yeah, we do have a bit of kind of wells as well. Yeah, but
yeah. I mean, it's believed there that the well, because it's at the foot of Ishnok, that it's quite likely the pilgrims would have sort of washed in the overflow. So the well itself, no one would go in there and you would drink water from it, but the overflow would be used to wash your feet. And like there's ruins of an ancient church there as well. There's like
I think it's everywhere the same. Yeah, you just go and kind of deep in 3 times and like wash your hands and like and I think we have a different as well, like close. There is like you can take the water as well and just bring that home. So there is like a 2 practically same kind of routes for this kind of
I suppose because like pure water is so important.
Different,
People didn't have water taps back in the day, so any source of good water would be revered.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's sacred. Water is sacred anyway. I believe water's alive with an energy.
For sure, it's collection, absorbing, like everything, like, and if even the nature and like good vibes, like nice. It's that's what actually I love about Ireland. Like it's so beautiful here. I don't know. I'm still 20 years and like trying to explain every year, like different places. Like I definitely love Connemara still. First came to Connemara. I still love it.
The
like
wildness,
but it's like wildness. It's just like the colors and everything. It's like amazing. So it's
And then the cow, she's associated with the sacred cow and the milk of the sacred cow, which would have been, certainly as well, like an expression of motherhood.
She would be a blesser of the milk, and she would be a blesser of the herd. And farmers would keep tradition in their family homes, in their cottages. Leaving out the Brigid's cloth to bless, and leaving out the milk to bless.
Yes.
The superstition and the tradition around.
We have a similar Sharad Purnima. Now Sharad is a season. In India, we don't experience like fall in October or November. No, that's not the time. It coexists with spring. So right when new leaves are coming, the old ones are shedding. The only kind of fall that happens here, you would see only in the hills, in the mountains, in the Himalayan ranges, especially in Kashmir. That's where you'll see the orange leaves and the different colors of yellow and coming back to the Sharad Purnima. Sharad Purnima is when we leave out a rice pudding made in milk for the moon to bless it. I mean, the intention is the same.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have to wonder, like, because the thread of these stories are so similar, like going back even thousands of years ago.
Yes.
How did these stories travel?
But there's a book that a very celebrated writer here who passed away a few months ago, Monckton Magan, and he wrote a book called Brehons and Brahmins. It was, and it talks about the shared history and cultural overlaps between the ancient Ireland culture and the Vedic Indian culture. And that's where I learned that there's so much in common between the Celtic culture, ancient Celtic culture, and the ancient Indian culture.
I have a question for you. Now, you were talking about how in school that you only really approach Brigid through a religious framework, i.e. religion class, once a year, and it's about a half an hour, and you don't feel like it's very engaging, or they don't make Brigid exciting, or they don't go into you would be able to explore avenues of Brigid. But being involved in this project now this year, and you've seen all of it. You've seen every side of the chaos. Like now that you've experienced that and the Brigid's Cloak project with your mum and other people's mothers and their grandmothers and all the stories. How do you feel about Brigid now? Like, how has that affected your vision of Brigid now that you've experienced
I always
it?
kind of liked Brigid. I don't do religion, so it's in school the religion bit of it. For girls who aren't doing it, they don't get to like do a lot on Brigid unless we want to listen in or an art piece that we have to do. So in a way it's kind of like unfair because there's like so many different versions and like aspects of Brigid in like pagan Brigid and Saint Brigid, and we only go into like Saint Brigid and it's not even that much, but doing this project was like really good to see everyone come together to like make something that was for everyone. Like there was pieces coming from all over, so I thought it was like really nice for the community to do that. And yeah.
Would I be right, maybe just through this conversation, would I be right in it feeling like it's now like a reclaiming of our actual Irishness in its power? Would I be right in saying that Brigid kind of represents nearly like a reclaiming of the other?
There's strength here also, but it's not like you said, it's
healing.
Yes, it's not something which threatens the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a different sort of strength.
Yes.
It's kind of like it's building its existence alongside of it and allowing for people to come in as they're ready.
Yes.
And I,